Hi everyone, I'm Alicia Quarles with E! News and E! Online, and welcome to our very first Google Plus Hangout for New York Fashion Week. Of course, we're kicking things off in style with Shane Gabier and Chris Peters, the creative forces and geniuses of Creatures of the Wind. They are joined by the one and only Bridget Foley, executive editor of WWD, and we're also joined by their very good friend James Bamer, director of global artistry for NARS. So for more info on E! Online, WWD, and Creatures of the Wind, click on the Showcase app tiles on the right of your screen. So without further ado, I got to turn it over to the gents. Shane, Chris, it's just, New York Fashion Week starts tomorrow officially. Your show is just down the pipeline. What's going on? Are you feeling nervous this morning, or take us through your mind?
Our show's tomorrow, so we're about 26 hours away from the show. But we're okay. I mean, we try to keep things relatively as relaxed as possible. I mean, there are always lots of last-minute things, but we work really hard over the summer to make sure that when we get to this point, that we're not freaking out.
We're missing like our last 6 pairs of shoes, which are coming in from Italy, which are on. They just arrived in New Jersey, so someone's going out there to pick them up. So.
And we have one more accessory piece that we're picking up, and that's it. Everything's here.
Yeah, everything's done, and it's time to take a nap.
2 or 3 more models to cast, and then like 5 fittings today, so it's not bad. We're in really good shape actually.
You really are together.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, we're obviously mainly here to talk about the show, the season, what it's like. But for people who may not be all that familiar with Creatures of the Wind, tell us, how did you become Creatures of the Wind? Tell us about how you came together and where you got the name.
Well, we started. I mean, we came together because we started dating, and we just started making things in our house in Chicago, and I'm not really sure how it started. It wasn't really planned.
Well, it was really just like project-based. We started kind of making things together, and it was a lot of like really like crazy handmade stuff, and we were just kind of working on projects for the first couple of seasons, and then Women's Wear Daily actually put us on the cover, which we were totally surprised. I mean, we knew that there was going to be something in Women's Wear Daily coming up, but we had no idea it was going to be the cover, so that was
that started the ball rolling.
Well, what you do is very different than a lot of what's out there. How do you describe your aesthetic?
It's really tough. It's really hard because there's certainly like an overlap between our aesthetics, but Chris and I definitely have like different points of departure very often too, so it's hard, I think, to kind of like summarize it.
Well, I could say. We have to explain this with James because we work with him every season on it, but we generally try and create like emotional scenarios, and that's kind of like how we frame out the idea of how we kind of make decisions off of those. And so that's such a nebulous way to kind of put it, but that's really.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely kind of narrative driven.
James, what would you say?
Well, I think. I love emotional scenarios. It's
a great line. Yeah.
I mean, for me, it makes it really easy to collaborate and work with you guys when you have a really specific narrative or the specific idea. It puts me in a really specific headspace, which I think makes it easier to start.
Shane and Chris, I know your parents both work together. Separately, individually. So growing up, I mean, did it help shape what you're doing now? Because there's very few couples that can actually work together successfully.
Yeah. We were actually just talking about this last night too. Yeah, I mean, I think that probably has a lot to do with it, but I don't know. I think we're a good kind of like good balance for each other, I think. And
I mean, weirdly, the collection is in a lot of ways like a dialogue between us. I mean, it is like the aspect of being in a relationship with the person that you work with is just, you have to make decisions that are also very considerate of each other. So much of it is, it's not one person fully getting their way. It's about really how you negotiate 2 very different things, and that really forces you to be a lot more creative than just doing what you initially just want to do. So I think it's been really, it's definitely been key to how we've shaped our brand.
Right. Nothing gets taken for granted. I mean, every decision has to be a discussion.
Every decision.
Which, can get a little grueling too, but.
You just mentioned being more creative than you would perhaps on your own. And this phrase, which I love, emotional scenarios. You recently did, I I think, a seminar with students at the Savannah College of Art and Design at the Paris Outpost, or the Provence Outpost.
Yep. Yes.
And Molly there told me that you really focused on, on telling them to explore art and music and literature and very non-fashion things. It was about inspiration. Tell us why that's important.
I think the most important thing that anyone can really bring to fashion is their own personal perspective, and you really can't write a dialogue. You can't write anything. You can't say anything with the words that are already being said. You have to be able to kind of form your own sort of voice from other references and things that matter to you, because your perspective is really what's gonna, make you grow as.
Well, it's what kind of like, that's
what makes
what separates you from everybody else. Yeah.
We're kind of at a very pragmatic point, I think, in mainstream fashion. Do you think there's enough high concept or enough emotion in fashion today?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's...
I think you see it in some places. I don't think you see it everywhere, for sure. I think...
But I think that's another one where it's like, to work in fashion, I mean, it is an art. I mean, that's one thing that's really important. It's like, in the end, you're producing a commercial product, and somebody else is going to be buying it and wearing it, and if, it doesn't have to speak to one person. With art, you're just making it for one person. You have to be speaking to thousands of people for you to be a successful company, and you really have to make the decisions that you make open and understandable and accessible for enough people. So I think it is really like there has to be both of those things. I think there has to be an understanding of what people actually want to wear, but then there also has to be kind of like a very personal and explored idea of what they're doing as a designer for it to be special.
Here's a question for everyone, for you guys, for James, for Bridget. Since you've won the Swarovski Emerging Designer Awards at the CFDAs, obviously WWD has covered you since the very beginning. You and James have worked together for a long time. Do you feel like the pressure is different now, that more eyes are on you, or how has it changed what you do?
I don't think it actually feels kind of oddly like less pressure in a way. I feel like there's a validation, I guess, that comes with winning an award like that, and I think in a way I think it allowed us to kind of like relax and just somebody's telling you that you're doing something right, I guess, and for us it was just I think we felt a lot more relaxed after that, and I think it just kind of gives you the confidence to kind of move forward in a strong way and feel like you're doing the right thing, I guess.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. Alicia, I would say that knowing these gentlemen for some time now, that response, I mean, I did not expect that response, and that response, I think, is sort of emblematic of who they are and what they bring to fashion. They come from fashion a little bit from left field. It's not a typical response. I think most people would answer, yes, there's more pressure and we've got to live up to it, and when do we win the Women's Award? And to me, that's very interesting that you have that. Well, first of all, you seem very sort of comfortable with what you're doing.
Yeah.
While still wanting to push it and grow it, and as you bring up, wanting to make sure that people want to wear it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's totally important.
Well, I mean, I think that's one of the most important things, and I think, it's like it's our story until it's on the runway, and I think the show is like the place where you really get to like express that. It's where we get to like decide on the music and the lights, and we work with James on the makeup, and we work with the hair team, and I think all those elements are the places where we get to really kind of put our vision into it. But after that, I mean,
once it's on the sales floor,
then it goes to sales, so then it's
something. It's whoever buys it, and that's a really important thing that we always try and keep in mind. It's like it can't be. I mean, there's no point in making like things obtuse or difficult for people to wear. Like it can be challenging in terms of like it can kind of push a person in a direction that might be severe for them or extreme, but at the same time, it's like it has to still make somebody feel beautiful and happy and excited to wear the clothes. So.
Right.
Shane, Chris, James, you guys are all Chi-Town educated.
Yes.
What is it about? First of all, how long have y'all known each other? So I was like, wait, Chicago. And secondly, is there something in the water in Chicago that's influencing, all the style?
Well, I don't know. I mean, first of all, to talk about Chicago, I mean, I think it's always interesting to, for lack of a better word, kind of like incubate, like somewhere that's not like in the mainstream. So I think it allows you. I mean, Chicago is great for young artists and young designers, I think, to a point, because you can really, you don't feel like you don't feel the pressure of having to conform to anything. So I think it really gives you the space to kind of grow on your own, which is great. James and I have known each other for a really long time.
All the secrets, James?
Yeah.
Really interesting, college fashion projects that we can talk about. So,
the first project we worked on together was a college project.
Was it a fashion project?
Yeah, it was. It was really good.
What was it? Dude, come on, tell.
Only mildly embarrassing to relive it, but no, I've actually sort of, it's held up over so many years. So
what is it?
Do you want to describe it, James?
Well, it was.
We want you to describe it.
So it was like a photo shoot. We were shooting Shane's collection at the time, and we had fashioned these really big sort of wigs made out of baby's breath. It was very sort of geisha-inspired makeup with Shane's clothes. It was a look, to say the least, but.
I have no idea what it looks like.
It was
now
a good
late
Bridget,
90s
moment.
We have to see pictures of that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh God.
So it was a shoot. It was not on the runway. It was a fashion shoot.
It was
right?
a shoot. It was a shoot. Yeah.
So tell us now, hair and makeup. Obviously, that plays a huge part in the show. Tell us about all of the elements coming together for this show tomorrow.
Well, this is the first time we've done our own accessories. So we did. We've started doing just kind of like a wide range of things we haven't been able to explore before. And what else? I mean, it's. I'm trying to think.
It's
of
our
like
first
everything.
season doing our shoes in house, which is really
Congratulations! That is
Thank you.
exciting.
Yeah. We've started. Now that we've got a bigger team in our studio, we can kind of explore all these resources that we'd never been able to really look into before.
So jewelry.
Yeah. So we're doing a lot of stuff in a lot of embroidery and a lot of
What about a
drawing in
little
India.
hint at the theme?
The theme. The collection is called Fata Morgana, which is it's a type of super mirage which causes things on the horizon to be flipped and float above the skyline and just kind of seem really odd and unreal. And so for us, it was about the idea of the things beyond our horizon flipped and distorted. So it's really about the fantasy of travel and it's kind of about nowhere but the present. It's about the idea of the distant and the.
Now, can you articulate how that translates into a look? Just pick one look from the show and talk about that, because I think sometimes that transition from the inspiration, the very heady inspiration, to the skirt and the top.
Well, so there's
so
the whole thing that we were trying to do was make a lot of references to different places, but at the same time removing all of the direct references. So it's just like there's a lot of things that reference like ceramics, but they're ceramics. But we've taken information from ceramics from China and Northern Africa and Belgium and the Netherlands and it's kind of like this, taking all those elements and putting them together in a way where they're super unplaceable, and they just feel very.
So the direct translation, I guess, is it's translated into the jacquard patterns that we've done, and it's definitely kind of informed the color story, which you'll see like in the runway show. It goes from, there are a lot of different kind of like moments in the color story, but I think for us it was kind of thinking about the kind of like broad picture, the broad spectrum of the collection. So it kind of starts with one kind of range of color and moves into something else, and moves into something else. So without trying to say too much, I mean, I think, the ideas behind it really informed, particular kind of patterns in the jacquards, particular prints, and definitely informed the silhouette. There's some really nice kind of like layering, I think, and.
You talked about the jacquards, the prints. Fabric is so important in your work, fabric research.
Yeah.
It's always distinctive. I mean, you always have very specific fabrics, and all the plainer fabrics tend to be more of a backdrop.
Yeah.
How do you approach fabric research?
Well, this is probably this is our first season where we've done a full collection development in an office as opposed to out of a backpack or like on our floor. So that's been very different, where we've had the distance and the space to really like look at things and kind of develop things. So this is the first time where our more simple fabrics are actually very developed, and we pretty much developed everything. Or not everything, like I'd say like a good two-thirds of the collection where we developed completely. So that was really exciting.
I mean, the way we approach it, I mean, we're really, I guess, democratic about materials, about fabrics. I mean, there are fabrics that are like really, kind of like inexpensive Japanese cottons that are, that we are buying for, $10 or $11 a yard. But then there are these really insane, like, technical, like, sequin fabrics that are made in Germany that are like hundreds of dollars a yard.
So this collection has our biggest price point range too. So like we have things that are like starting in like the 200s, and then we're going up to.
Ooh, I'm like, what do you say?
It's like we went over the 10,000 mark this season, which was kind of an interesting barrier to break with clothing, where you're like, oh, that's really expensive. That's like a car. Cool.
I have a question that's twofold. I know obviously your name and all of your collections have been very much inspired by music and emotion. So what's going to be the music landscape for this one? And then secondly, for everyone, talk to me about the significance of opening Fashion Week versus being in the middle or being at the end.
Well, first part, music is really, this is my favorite music so far. It was, I'm not going to spoil it, so you're just going to have to listen to it. It's really cool.
Okay.
So that one I can't answer, actually.
But what we can say about it, there's a really nice, it's like a really nice like abstraction. So it starts off with this really nice.
Stop. Just not saying. Yeah. No, don't talk about it.
It's good though.
It's really good.
It feels good. And we always, like, our finale song, for the finale, we always like to just, like, play something that's, like, maybe it's something a little more nostalgic, something that's just, like, a really great song.
Stop talking about the music. Stop. Just stop.
And what was the second part of the question?
The second part was actually for all of us, the significance of opening Fashion Week versus being in any other day or time slot.
What do you think about first day? How do you feel
I'm
about
with you.
first
It's
day?
so awesome.
Well, it's so much better for us in terms of just like getting it all done. It's like everyone's still working, and it's just like, all right, well, see you later. Sorry. It's great because you just kind of get out of the way. The biggest things that we have to deal with are the closings of Italy, because Italy closes for August, so that's a big problem. Because if you don't get all your stuff in July, basically, then you lose. You have shoes flying.
Isn't it remarkable, as early as the collections are, the Italian collections as well, that Italy still closes in August?
Right.
Oh, God.
It's amazing to me.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's totally.
So most of our shoes came in July, which is great, but now we're sending somebody to FedEx in New Jersey today to pick up the last one. But first day is great. I really like showing on the first day. Like, everybody feels, there's like a great kind of anticipation in the air, and I think, everybody just feels fresh, and like the models are really happy still in the first week.
Yes, everyone's very happy. They're like, I'm so excited, it's my first season. And you're like, oh. It's like,
James, how big is your makeup team backstage for Creatures?
Say it again.
How big is your makeup, the NARS team, backstage for Creatures of the Wind?
I think we have maybe like 15 or 18 artists. It's 25 girls, right, guys? So
yeah, 24, 25,
yeah.
Pretty easy. It's always mellow. The guys are so great to work with. That makes such a difference when you're working with people that you really like. So the energy backstage is amazing, and I think everyone really taps into that and can really feel it. It always makes for an experience.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Talk about the process when you meet with these gentlemen. What's the discussion, and then how free are you? Do you come back with 3 different illustrations? What's the process for the look?
I think it's different every time. It really starts as a conversation. Shane and Chris walked me through the collection, sort of put me inside their head about what they were thinking, and it sort of goes from there. It's, like I said before, it's always really specific, and there's always a good narrative, which makes it easier for me to figure out where I'm going to land.
Right.
We just did the test yesterday, which surprisingly was it was really sort of...
That was so easy. That was like the easiest
easy.
test ever. We're done in like 15 minutes. It was so crazy.
Well, the great thing is that James really understands our references, so it's like we can just like, you can talk about like a scene from a film or like a music video from whenever, and it's like, and then he's like, oh, right, and then he's got it, and then we go. So it's pretty easy, and that's why, that's the great part about working with people that you've known for a long time, because you just know that they understand what you're talking about.
And James, when we talk to him, like our dialogue with James about the hair and makeup, like normally we give him the most
Obscure.
edited, like we give him like we give him like the kind of most direct, but like I don't know. Normally the one that we would avoid talking about with most people sort of idea for the references, so he can kind of get like the down
most
dirty quick
detailed,
version.
the most obscure.
Well, like even like with it was like spring summer. 2013. We didn't really talk about it, but the collection was inspired by the one female Godzilla monster, the really sweet, sugary one. And we're just going to talk about it being inspired by Couture. Because I was like, and we were. That was like the idea of how we can sort of interpret monstrousness was through all these really exaggerated shapes. But then with James, you could be like, it's about the one female Godzilla
It's about
monster.
the pretty Godzilla.
Shane, Chris, I got to ask, does any little tiny part of you reject all that is Fashion Week? Because I know when you first started, you would do really small presentations or just invite buyers. It was very intimate. And now, obviously, you're opening Fashion Week.
Well, I think I don't want to ever say I
think it's
reject
about
fashion.
rejecting. I think it's just
Not
about,
rejecting, I guess resisting.
Right? No. I think it's just about you just do your own thing. I think that's what it should be anyway. It's like I mean I don't know. It's like we certainly like pay attention to fashion and we look at what people are doing and we obviously like respect it, and a lot of our all of our heroes are from fashion, but I think I mean the important thing is to not.
Who are your heroes? Who are your fashion heroes?
I would say the reason I got into fashion was Jen Takahashi. Undercover. Yeah. I remember reading. I was in high school, and it was a New Yorker story about like fashion in Japan, and they had this whole interview with him, and he was just talking about fashion. I didn't think fashion could be anything like that, and it was just this idea of fashion as a means to create a world. So it's kind of like, to me, it was like almost like it has the same ability of film, but with a lot less effort, and you just kind of create like these instances of story. And for me, that was so, I don't know, that became something I wanted to do so badly, and I never thought of it like that before.
Do you think as the company grows, and you're still very small, but fashion as a means of creating a world, that's such a beautiful thought, and I think it's very, very true, and I think it's true for, on a much smaller scale, for people who, when we get dressed every day, you have the opportunity to create your own little world. Do you think that that dream of a young student starting out, or someone being a high school kid being inspired, how does that play out in a world obsessed with globalization and branding and how many stores you have in Asia?
I mean, you just gotta like plow on through, which is such a I wouldn't recommend necessarily following our path, like just going into this like really blindly, because it was exceedingly difficult, and we've had the support of so many countless people, and really that's why we're here today, and we wouldn't be otherwise. But it is really hard, and it's hard to kind of stay true to what you're doing, but you also have to know that you have to be reactive, and you have to respond to what people are asking you and telling you, and you have to find a way to mediate what the world needs of you and what you need of the collection.
But I think I think the people who are really kind of following their own kind of instincts and really like sticking to their kind of like world and their aesthetic, I mean, for me, those are the ones that I kind of admire the most. So, I mean, that's what I would always say to anybody.
Are there some tried and true fundamentals, and this is for, I guess, everyone here, that have served you well in your career? Like, gentlemen, I know you say go off emotions for your collections, have a partner to bounce it with, travel. Are there other things you can share with us?
I just think it's important to keep a broad scope of references, and to you have to just like be super curious,
and fluid. Yeah. You have to be fluid. You have to be very reactive.
Flexible is a good one. I think being flexible makes such a difference. You can't be too rigid with your ideas. You sort of get stuck in a certain place.
Yeah. Right. Flexibility, I would say, is the most important thing in fashion.
Oh yeah. Quick. Right?
Yeah. Be quick. Be reactive.
You keep saying reactive, and when do you know when to react, when to be flexible, and when to stand your ground? Is that a gut feeling?
Whether it's creatively or business-wise? It's definitely like dictated by feeling.
Yeah.
And we talk to a lot of people about kind of the ideas that we present.
And we talk to each other about.
We talk to each other a lot, and we're not the type of people who design the collection in a vacuum. Like it's not like a white room where no one can come in. It's just like, I mean, we'll talk to our assistants. We'll talk to like, our friends, like, and we'll just show people things, and we'll just be like, we'll talk about this, we'll talk about a pocket placement, we really want to see how other people kind of feel about it. Well, actually, we have there's a lot of different women that we really respect their kind of aesthetic opinions of, and we normally like run through with them, just like, I mean, friends, not like professional people, they're just like buddies. We have them come in and we talk to them about stuff, and they're very different people at different stages in their lives, and doing very different things, and we listen to what they have to say about the clothes. So.
I have a question. Bridget, you've known these men for so long. What's been the biggest change that you've seen in them as they've grown and the collection's grown and become more famous?
Well, happily, the change that I haven't seen is backing away from their artful point of view. I think that's so important because it's very, very hard to retain that as you grow. But I do see more of a sense of the market. I do see a sense of what it means to be, a commercial artist as opposed to an artist, a commercial designer, because that's what, and that's not to say this is a commercial collection,
yeah.
but you're moving in that direction of broadening your base and broadening your frame of reference and broadening your offerings. I mean, I think many collections and what these gentlemen are starting to do now is what's on the runway is the essence. It's the core of the season. It's the most acute expression of the inspiration, but then you expand, you add some pieces, and so that you have more of a real-world accessibility. Mm-hmm. And they're doing that, I think, really, really beautifully, because a lot of people start off, I really mean that, a lot of people start, and this is still a very young company,
yeah.
And a lot of people start off, with these amazing, what was it, emotional stories that you tell, and then they kind of back off or get conservative. The hardest thing to do in fashion is to keep moving while retaining your essence. Mm-hmm. We've seen that over and over and over again. And the ones who are great, the ones who in 30 years we'll talk about Creatures of the Wind when we talk about Prada, or that those are the people who do that. And that's a very, very difficult thing to do, especially with the pressures. I mean, I'm not even talking about emotional pressures. I'm talking about the very real, black and white, take out the calendar pressures of fashion. Mm-hmm. Unbelievable, right?
Yeah, it's an incredibly expensive industry to be. I mean, you have to, a show costs, a lot of money. It's like, it's like, and just like everything that you have to kind of figure out how to do this and to produce the samples. I mean, it's just like, it is, it's not cheap in any sense of the word.
But I think, the schedule is tough, but it's not, I think if you're the sort of person that can react to that, it works.
The money thing is more like the point. Like just like the economic, the economic
I don't think
factors.
that was what she was saying.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about the economic.
She's thinking about the pressure of the calendar.
Oh, okay.
I mean, both, yeah.
And money too.
Yeah.
Money's an issue. Yeah, but
I think it's, I mean, I like having the chance to kind of like restart every 6 months, or, if you're doing
What about preseasons? Are you there?
We're doing, the whole, as we work now, I mean, the nicest thing for us is, some of the collection that we're working on are collections I want to do in high school. And it's like you have these ideas of what these things can be, and we work concurrently on collections. So we're going to be doing all 4 seasons then the next year. We're already working on pre right now. We're working on fall. So those two kind of like, we have the framework of the ideas, what they're about, and then we'll start working probably on spring, summer, and November. And so you always have these moments where, if it's not about just making clothes, if it's about making a story, you can always think about that. And then when you have to make decisions, they just they kind of formulate on their own. I mean, some of the best. Oh.
No, keep going. I did not mean to cut you off. Go.
No, I mean, some of the best things that we've done have kind of like happened really quickly when we just kind of made them in like a couple days, and it's just because we've been talking so much about what the references are, and they just sort of make themselves.
Was there one moment, I'm sure there's been many, but the moment that you can remember where you thought, okay, our line has crossed over, we've not made it, but we're solid, we're there? Was it that cover of WWD? Was there one?
It was the cover of WWD.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear that.
No, that was that first cover. I remember, like, seeing because it popped up online because we were just like refreshing because we knew it was going to be the next issue, and then like we're on the cover, and I remember just like freaking out and not being able to sleep. Like I couldn't sleep. So that was probably like our biggest like.
That was the first
one,
moment.
yeah.
And probably one of many future sleepless nights in fashion, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's all an evolution. I mean, I think those things are always happening, and I think it's it's important to just kind of make yourself kind of aware of those moments and to not let them go by without noting them. I mean, really noting those kind of benchmark moments, I think, is important.
Because you have to recognize your own momentum. Otherwise, you just kind of start seeing things as just like you're like, oh God, we have to hit this benchmark, and if we don't make it, then there's something wrong with us. And it's just like it's more about appreciating them when they come at the time that they happen.
Right.
So it's just finding a healthy way to really understand and move forward.
Do you all, this is for all of us, have a ritual once this Fashion Week's done or once the show's done of celebrating? It's kind of to your point of taking a moment to breathe and enjoy what you've done.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We don't have a ritual per se.
I always have a beer and then I go to sleep. I take a nap.
We usually kind of sleep for the afternoon after the show, but we've got a dinner with all of our studio team and tomorrow. So.
And then will you take a trip? A vacation or no?
Well, not really a vacation, but we are traveling. We're going to be traveling between. We'll end up in Paris for Paris Fashion Week, but in between we'll be in a couple other places.
So we fly to like the week after our show. We have some events in LA, and then we fly from LA to Beijing for another event, and then we fly from Beijing to Paris and back to New York. So it's gonna be.
And then it all starts again.
Yeah, it's like November and we're already late. So.
Is there things that you do, you know, those hands-on days when you were at your parents' house in New Jersey or whatever, schlepping garment bags, even though you have a staff now that you say, nope, nobody else is going to do this, I still do it?
Oh, yeah, there's lots of stuff that we still do ourselves. I mean, and I think it's been good that we were doing all that stuff in the beginning. I mean, it's important to just kind of, you know, be aware of, like, you know, the whole system and the whole process.
Yeah.
Speaking of being aware of system and process, I would imagine you, even though you're very together and very mellow about tomorrow, you have a few more things to do. 6 pairs of shoes to look at, right? So we should probably wrap it up.
10.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fitting. Okay.
It's cool. I haven't seen anyone walk by the door, so we're okay.
All right, Shane, Chris, we are looking forward to the show tomorrow. Bridget, we got to go to Carolina Herrera. I'm sure I'll see you there.
Absolutely. See you there, Alicia.
James, I can't wait to see the makeup. Thank you all for joining us for this Google Plus Hangout, and we'll have a few more for Fashion Week, so I'll check you guys out later.